The First Great Schism was one of the earliest recorded conflicts in galactic history, taking place around 24,500 BBY. This schism marked the first major divide between Force users, eventually leading to the creation of Dark Jedi. The war began when a faction of Jedi Knights, led by the ambitious Zendor, started experimenting with forbidden Force techniques that the Jedi Council had deemed too dangerous and destructive. Zendor and his followers believed that limiting themselves to only light side teachings severely restricted their understanding and mastery of the Force. To them, the Force was a dualistic entity that could not be fully comprehended without exploring its darker aspects. The Orthodox Jedi, seeing this departure as a grave threat not only to their teachings, but to the stability of the galaxy itself, confronted these dissenting Jedi. Zendor, along with his followers, formed the Legion of Leto, the first organized army of dark side practitioners. This marked the formal beginning of the conflict, which quickly spread across multiple systems as the two factions fought for their differing views on the true nature of the Force. The Orthodox Jedi believed that dark side was inherently corruptive, leading to madness and devastation, while Zendor's followers argued that embracing both sides of the Force would allow for greater growth and power. The conflict reached its climax during the Battle of Columbus, where Zendor himself faced off against Jedi Master Pina, known as the Green Blade for his unique skill with a green-bladed lightsaber. Despite Zendor's formidable dark side abilities, the battle ended with his death, a turning point that led to the eventual defeat of his followers. The remaining Dark Jedi were forced into exile, fleeing to the distant Outer Rim territories. Though the schism was short-lived, its effects would be felt for millennia to come, setting a dangerous precedent for future conflicts between users of the light and dark sides of the Force. It also established a pattern in galactic history, as the ideological rifts within the Jedi Order often had galaxy-spanning consequences. In the wake of the First Great Schism, tensions with the Jedi Order were never fully resolved. Though the Dark Jedi were expelled, their teachings survived in the shadows, periodically re-emerging to challenge the Jedi's strict adherence to the light side. These ideological disputes set the stage for future conflicts, the most significant of which was the 100-Year Darkness. The 100-Year Darkness began around 7000 BBY when a group of radical Jedi, led by Ajunta Pall, defied the Jedi Council's restrictions on certain Force techniques. These Dark Jedi delved into forbidden aspects of the Force, particularly focusing on dark side alchemy. Through these experiments, they developed methods to manipulate and corrupt life, creating monstrous, abominable creatures that they used as weapons. The Jedi Council, recognizing the growing danger posed by these rogue Jedi, moved to stop them. This sparked a century-long war that engulfed the galaxy in destruction. The Dark Jedi, using their alchemically enhanced warriors and monstrous creations, laid siege to multiple Republic worlds, pushing the Jedi Order to its limits. Some of the creatures created during this period were so dangerous that they continued to haunt the galaxy for thousands of years, becoming legends of terror in the Outer Rim and beyond. The war culminated in the Battle of Korbos, where the combined forces of the Jedi Order and the Republic finally managed to defeat the Dark Jedi. However, the cost was immense, with entire planets ravaged and populations decimated by the conflict. In the aftermath, the surviving Dark Jedi were exiled from Republic space. These exiles eventually discovered the remote planet of Korriban, home to the ancient Sith species. The Dark Jedi subjugated the native Sith people and established themselves as rulers, giving rise to the Sith Order. This moment marked the true birth of the Sith as an organized and formidable dark side power. The 100-Year Darkness was a watershed moment in galactic history, solidifying the division between the Jedi and the Sith. It introduced dark side alchemy as a potent force, and many of the techniques developed during this period would be passed down through generations of Sith, eventually becoming a cornerstone of their dark practices. The war also demonstrated the devastating potential of unchecked dark side experimentation and set the stage for future conflicts between the light and dark sides of the Force. The Great Hyperspace War erupted in 5000 BBY when two Republic hyperspace explorers, Gav and Jory Daragon, accidentally discovered the hidden Sith Empire on Korriban while searching for new hyperspace routes. The Sith Empire, long isolated from the Republic, had grown strong under the leadership of powerful Sith lords like Tulak Hord and Marka Ragnos. When the explorers arrived, they were captured and brought before Naga Sato, a Sith lord with ambitions to expand Sith rule beyond their borders. Sato, recognizing an opportunity to conquer the Republic, used the explorers to stage a daring escape, manipulating events to provoke a war with the Republic. Against the more cautious wishes of his Sith peers, Sato launched a full-scale invasion on the Republic, catching the unprepared galaxy completely off guard. His fleet, bolstered by dark-side sorcery, made early gains, conquering several systems and spreading fear across the galaxy. Sato's mastery of Sith sorcery allowed him to create powerful illusions, making his invasion force appear far larger than it actually was. This tactic proved effective in the early stages of the war as Republic forces struggled to mount a coordinated defense. As the war dragged on, the Republic and the Jedi began to adapt to the Sith tactics. The turning point came when Naga Sato's deception was exposed during a crucial battle, breaking his concentration and revealing the true size of his fleet. With the illusion shattered, the Republic launched a massive counteroffensive, pushing the Sith forces back. The war culminated in Sato's defeat, and the remnants of the Sith Empire retreated into obscurity, seemingly vanishing from galactic affairs. Although the Sith teachings endured, their once unified empire fractured. Without a central authority to bind them together, these fragmented Sith groups were torn apart by infighting, greed, and ambition. Dark-side knowledge persisted through hidden tombs, ancient holocrons, and secretive sects like the Krath and the Brotherhood of the Sith, but the once great empire had fallen silent. While the Republic and the Jedi believed they had eradicated the Sith menace, their lust for power and revenge lived on, simmering in the shadows across several worlds in the galaxy. Among those remnants, one Sith would rise above all others: Darth Vitiate. A brilliant and ruthless Sith Lord, Vitiate sought not just power, but immortality itself. On his homeworld of Nathema, he conducted a catastrophic ritual, absorbing the life force of every living being on the planet. This dark act left Nathema a lifeless, desolate void in the Force, and in return, Vitiate achieved immortality. Declaring himself Emperor of the Sith, Vitiate gathered the remnants of the Sith Empire and led them to the remote world of Dromund Kaas. There, in secret, he rebuilt the Sith Empire, biding his time and waiting for the right moment to strike back at the Republic. Though the Republic emerged victorious, the Great Hyperspace War exposed the galaxy to the lingering threat of the Sith. It also solidified the Jedi's role as the Republic's protectors, setting the stage for future conflicts between the Republic and the Sith. The Old Sith Wars, a series of interconnected conflicts spanning from 4000 to 3960 BBY, nearly destroyed the Galactic Republic. This tumultuous period began when the Great Sith War with Exar Kun, a former Jedi Knight, embraced the dark side and began training in the ancient Sith teachings on Yavin 4. Kun's journey to becoming Dark Lord of the Sith began with his obsession with forbidden knowledge, leading him to the tomb world of Korriban, where the spirit of Markham Ragnos anointed him as the new Dark Lord. Kun then uncovered the teachings of Naga Sadow on Yavin 4, gaining immense power and fully embracing the Sith mantle. His most significant convert was Ulic Qel-Droma, a skilled Jedi Knight who had initially sought to infiltrate the Sith, but ultimately fell under Kun's influence, helping to spread the Sith's corrupting influence across the galaxy. Together, Kun and Qel-Droma formed a powerful Sith Brotherhood, uniting various darkside practitioners, Mandalorian Crusaders, and the criminal Krath cult into a formidable force. Their singular mission: conquer the Republic worlds that have dealt the Sith so much pain and declare a new golden age of the Sith. Their war against the Republic was devastating, with many key systems falling under their control. The Sith Brotherhood's influence spread rapidly. One of the most catastrophic events of the Old Sith Wars was the destruction of the Kron Cluster, a system of stars that Kun triggered to explode with the help of an ancient superweapon of the Sith. The resulting supernova sent a massive shockwave through nearby systems, including the Jedi library world of Ossus, which was devastated by the blast. In the chaos, the Sith looted countless Jedi artifacts, sacred texts, and ancient holocrons, further consolidating their power. The loss of Ossus was a significant blow to the Jedi Order, depriving them of centuries of knowledge and forcing them to regroup. The war eventually ended with the defeat of Kun and Qel-Droma. After killing his brother in a duel, Qel-Droma was stripped of the Force by a Jedi, severing his connection to the dark side and filling him with remorse. Overcome with guilt, he turned on Exar Kun and led the Jedi to Yavin 4, Kun's home base. As the Jedi launched a massive assault, Kun attempted a dark ritual to detach his spirit from his body, but his spirit became trapped within the temples of Yavin 4. Qel-Droma then went on and helped the Republic dismantle the remaining Sith forces. In the aftermath of the Great Sith War, the Republic was left severely weakened, having spent a lot of resources. Now, dear expert commenters, to be real, this section is the one I had to research the most on as I didn't have a lot of prior knowledge on it. Let me know if I missed anything important, and let's move on to my favorite part in the Old Republic. The Mandalorian Wars began in 3976 BBY, when the Mandalorian clans, led by Mandalore the Ultimate, embarked on a campaign of conquest at the edge of Republic space. The Mandalorians, a warrior culture that valued strength and glory in battle, sought new challenges and deliberately provoked the Republic by attacking non-member worlds. Despite these aggressive actions, the Jedi Council refused to intervene, sensing a greater unseen threat behind the Mandalorian aggression. The Republic's reluctance to engage allowed the Mandalorians to gain a foothold, conquering several systems and building momentum for a larger invasion. The Mandalorian army, bolstered by their advanced combat techniques and brutal tactics, laid waste to entire worlds. On Serroco, the Mandalorians used nuclear weapons to obliterate the planet's cities, and the devastation of Cathar nearly wiped out the Cathar species. These atrocities demonstrated the Mandalorians' willingness to use extreme measures to achieve victory. As the Republic struggled to mount an effective defense, a faction of Jedi led by Revan and his apprentice Malak defied the Jedi Council's orders and joined the war. Revan, a brilliant military strategist, quickly turned the tide of the conflict. His leadership inspired more Jedi to join the fight, and under his command, the Republic forces began to push the Mandalorians back. Revan's use of unconventional tactics and his willingness to embrace morally ambiguous decisions made him a controversial figure within the Jedi Order, but his successes on the battlefield were undeniable. The war reached its climax in the Battle of Malachor V, a pivotal confrontation that would have far-reaching consequences. During the battle, Revan ordered the activation of the Mass Shadow Generator, a superweapon designed to create intense gravitational forces that would crush entire fleets. The generator's activation resulted in the complete destruction of both Republic and Mandalorian forces caught in its range. The surface of Malachor V was transformed into a twisted graveyard of shattered ships and debris, and the planet became a nexus of dark-side energy. Revan's victory over the Mandalorians was absolute, but the cost was staggering. Mandalore the Ultimate was defeated in single combat by Revan, ending the Mandalorian threat. In his dying breaths, Mandalore the Ultimate revealed that the war had been instigated by a mysterious figure from the unknown regions. This revelation, combined with the devastation caused by the Mass Shadow Generator, deeply haunted Revan and Malak. Their trauma, exposure to the dark side on Malachor V, and the desire to uncover the identity of this enigmatic puppet master drove them down a dark path that would ultimately lead to their fall. The Jedi Civil War erupted shortly after the Mandalorian Wars, when Revan and Malak, who had disappeared into the unknown regions following their victory, returned as Sith Lords with a massive invasion fleet. During their absence, they discovered the remnants of the ancient Sith Empire and fallen to the dark side due to the influence of the Sith Emperor Darth Vitiate, the same Sith Lord that centuries ago became immortal. Now adopting the titles of Darth Revan and Darth Malak, their return marked the beginning of one of the most devastating conflicts in galactic history. Revan and Malak's intimate knowledge of Republic and Jedi tactics made them particularly dangerous opponents. Their forces included many former Republic officers and Jedi who had served under them during the Mandalorian Wars, now turned to the dark side and serving their cause. The Sith fleet launched precision strikes against key Republic worlds, using strategies that Revan and Malak had developed during their time as Republic heroes. The war was brutal, with entire systems falling under Sith control as Revan and Malak sought to impose their dark vision on the galaxy. The tide of the war turned when a Jedi strike team, led by Bastila Shan, managed to get on board Revan's flagship to confront Revan. The Jedi were just about to engage Revan when Malak, seeing the chance to overthrow Revan, opened fire on Revan's ship, attempting to kill the Jedi strike team alongside Revan. However, the strike team survived, along with Revan, who was gravely injured and on the brink of death. He was brought back to the Jedi Council, where his memory was erased and given a new identity. The Jedi hoped to use Revan's knowledge of the Sith to turn the tide of the war, though they kept his true identity a secret. With Revan gone, Malak assumed the mantle of Dark Lord of the Sith and proved to be an even more ruthless leader. Under his command, the Sith forces intensified their attacks, reducing entire worlds to ash. One of Malak's most infamous acts was the bombardment of Telos IV, which left the planet in ruins. His reign would be short-lived, however, as a newly turned Revan alongside the Republic started mounting a counteroffensive, which concluded on board the Starforge, an ancient superweapon fueled by the dark side, which Malak was using to produce seemingly limitless ships and war machines. There, Revan faced Malak in one-on-one combat, defeating him and bringing the Jedi Civil War to an end. The Jedi Civil War had far-reaching consequences for both the Jedi Order and the Republic. The conflict had decimated the Jedi, leaving them vulnerable to future threats. It also set the stage for the Dark Wars as the remnants of the Sith continued to plot in the shadows. The Dark Wars followed immediately after the Jedi Civil War, plunging the galaxy into a period of darkness and fear yet again. During this time, a triumvirate of Sith Lords, Darth Nihilus, Darth Sion, and Darth Traya, rose to power. These Sith Lords sought to reshape the galaxy according to their twisted visions of power. Nihilus was driven by his endless hunger, only wanting to consume life force, while Sion, an immortal being held together by sheer hatred, sought to impose his will through fear and pain, being a more traditional Sith. Traya, on the other hand, a former Jedi Master, sought revenge against both the Jedi and the Sith, believing that both orders had failed the galaxy, wanting them to both be destroyed. She manipulated the events transpiring from behind the scenes and set the stage for the final confrontations of the Dark Wars. The Dark Wars were characterized not by large-scale battles, but by the systematic hunting and extermination of the Jedi. Nihilus, Sion, and Traya employed shadow tactics, ambushes, and assassinations to decimate the already weakened Jedi Order. One of the most devastating attacks during this period was the destruction of the planet Qatar, home to a colony of Jedi who had gathered to discuss how to rebuild the Order. Nihilus consumed the entire planet's life force in an instant, killing all who were present and further demoralizing the survivors, leaving the Jedi Order on the brink of extinction. The Dark Wars eventually came to an end when a lone Jedi exile, Mitra Surik, who was banished by the Jedi Order due to her involvement in activating the mass shadow generator, confronted and defeated the Sith Lords one by one. Traya, who had once been the exile's mentor, revealed that she had orchestrated much of the conflict in an attempt to test Surik's resolve, believing she could either restore balance or end the Force itself. Traya hoped that Surik would abandon the flawed teachings of both the Jedi and the Sith, embracing a new philosophy that would reshape the galaxy. However, Surik rejected Traya's nihilistic vision, choosing instead to uphold the Jedi principles she had rediscovered. With the Sith defeated, the galaxy and the Jedi Order were left to rebuild once more. The redeeming factor in the defeat of the Sith Triumvirate was that the Jedi and the Republic were able to purge the known galaxy of the Sith, recapturing all planets lost during the last wars, including those from the Great Sith War. A period of peace and stability was on the horizon. Now that was it for Part 1 of the Old Republic Wars. Stay tuned for Part 2, which will be released in time, where we'll look into the Great Galactic War, the invasion from the Internal Empire leading into the High Republic era. Please subscribe, it really means a lot, and let me know in the comments what I can improve on. I read all the comments and try to reply as much as possible. May the Force be with you and all of us.